Hey y'all, it's me, Dree. So today we're starting with resonance reversed, compassion, and then we have devotion. So I'm getting with this resonance reversed that something about a situation or a particular connection is starting in misalignment. I'm getting something about the timing, maybe the circumstances or the setting even, or it could even just be the way this is unfolding. Whatever it is, it just isn't quite lining up the way it needs to. But with compassion, I don't get that this misalignment immediately turns into rejection, anger, or emotional shutdown, because compassion talks about understanding, empathy, kindness. It talks about offering support without any expectation. So I'm getting there may still be care present here, even if something isn't fully moving the same way someone expected it to. And then we're ending in devotion. So, devotion, this talks about commitment, care, what y'all choose to nurture, and where y'all continue to show up fully. So, I'm getting that we might be looking at a situation where something starts out misaligned, but the way y'all respond to that misalignment is going to matter. Now let's get into this message. We're starting under this resonance reversed. And I have the Knight of Wands. I have the Ten of Cups. And the Four of Swords reversed. So this Knight of Wands is coming through. The card says swept off your feet. So I'm getting was definitely some strong engagement happening here. This person may have been very present with y'all. There could have been chemistry, excitement, playfulness, charisma. There could have been maybe a little flirtation underneath it, but I'm not necessarily reading this energy as purely lusty intentions. I'm not reading that at all. This feels more like somebody who was genuinely energized by the interaction. They were engaged. They were interested. I'm getting there was something about y'all that pulled them in. And then directly under the Knight of Wands, we have the Ten of Cups, which is happily ever after, a storybook ending. So this wasn't necessarily being experienced as something shallow. I'm getting there was something about this connection that opened up a much bigger emotional possibility for this person. Because the Ten of Cups talks about harmony, emotional fulfillment, stability. It talks about peace and the potential for a genuinely happy relationship. So even if this interaction started as light, playful, or flirtatious, there was definitely something deeper underneath it. But sitting over this whole column is this resonance reverse. And that tells me the issue, that may not have been the connection itself. It's telling me that something about when this was happening, or where this was happening, or how it was unfolding, that was not aligned. The timing could have been off. The circumstances could have been off. And getting there may have been something surrounding this connection that simply did not support forward movement at that time, because we're ending this column on the Four of Swords with the Four of Swords reversed, which is no action or movement. So whatever this connection was, it eventually stopped moving. And I don't think the cards are telling us exactly why. That reason is probably going to be different for each and every one of you. But the cards are showing me that there was engagement. There was emotional possibility. But something about the circumstances wasn't aligned enough for it to continue moving forward. So the connection went into non-action. And with that, we can move into the second column, which is highlighting this compassion. And under compassion, I have the Four of Cups reversed, the Nine of Cups, and the Knight of Coins. So I think this is where we really start to see how you all handled this non-action. Because compassion, we said, it talks about empathy, kindness, understanding, and offering support or care without expectation. And then with the tarot, we're getting the Four of Cups, which is about self-awareness. So I'm getting, even though the connection had gone into non-action, the collective did not lose themselves inside of it. Y'all stayed tuned into what was happening. Y'all stayed aware of your own feelings. And y'all re-engaged with y'all's own life. And that part matters, because this card talks about being proactive, focused, grateful, and seizing the day. So I'm getting y'all weren't sitting around dwelling on what wasn't moving. Y'all kept living. Y'all kept showing up in your own life. And at the same time, I don't get that y'all became cold towards this person either, because the compassion remained. Y'all could still let this person know that y'all cared for them, that y'all could still show appreciation, and that y'all could still be kind. But I'm getting there was no pressure behind it at all. Y'all weren't using this care to force movement. Y'all weren't saying, I'm showing up for you, so now y'all need to do something. No. This compassion was genuine. And then we have the Nine of Cups, which is about emotional fulfillment. And I think this is showing that y'all stayed emotionally full with yourselves. Y'all were still happy, still satisfied, still connected to y'all's own life. So I'm getting this person could see that y'all were not sitting around waiting for them to move. Y'all cared, but y'all were not dwelling. And then the second column ends with the Knight of Coins. And this Knight is upright. So now I think we're looking directly at the collective. Because while this connection may have gone into non-action, y'all didn't. Y'all stayed grounded. Y'all stayed practical. Y'all stayed responsible, and y'all kept working. Y'all kept focusing on your money, your stability, your responsibilities, and all the things y'all are actually building in your own life. So I'm getting y'all didn't respond to somebody else's lack of movement by putting yourselves into a holding pattern. Y'all stayed compassionate, self-aware, emotionally fulfilled, and then y'all put your energy right back into the practical areas of your own life. And I think that's important going into this last column, because now we're moving into devotion. And under devotion, the tarot is ending the message with the Eight of Cups reverse, the Page of Wands, and the Queen of Coins. So I'm getting this devotion is carrying forward exactly what we just saw from y'all in this second column. Because y'all stayed devoted to y'all selves. Y'all stayed committed to your own lives. Y'all continued nurturing the things that mattered to y'all. And I'm getting y'all didn't abandon yourselves just because something with another person stopped moving. And honestly, collective, I think somebody has been watching that. Because underneath devotion, we have this Eight of Cups reversed, which is about a lack of direction. And this card also talks about being honest. This card also talks about being dishonest with yourself and with others. It talks about saying for the wrong reasons. It talks about being in limbo, and it talks about faking happiness. So I'm getting, while y'all have been moving forward with your own lives, somebody else starts looking at theirs, and they may realize that they've been somewhere, or maybe even with someone, for the wrong reasons. There's also something here about honesty, because I don't think this person has necessarily been honest about what they feel for the collective. Maybe they haven't been honest with other people. Maybe they haven't even been completely honest with themselves. But there is something about watching the collective remain devoted to themselves that seems to bring this person's own lack of direction into focus. Because y'all, we said it, y'all aren't dwelling. Y'all aren't waiting. Y'all aren't trying to pull this person out of whatever position they're in. Y'all are just over here living y'all's own lives, working on y'all's own stability, focusing on your coins, and continuing to build. And apparently, seeing all that creates something in this person, because next we have the Page of Wands, and this is where I see a spark of engagement. This could be communication. It could be an invitation. It could be somebody finding a playful or lighthearted way to engage with the collective again. It could simply be renewed curiosity or excitement that starts creating movement where there hasn't been any. I'm not going to tell y'all exactly what this engagement looks like, because it's going to be different for each and every one of you. But I do see that engagement is coming, and something is lighting back up. And then underneath this Page of Wands, the message ends with this Queen of Coins. And I don't think the Queen of Coins is simply identifying the collective. I think she's showing us the value this person now sees in the collective, because they see somebody grounded, somebody stable, somebody nurturing, somebody practical. They see somebody who takes care of their own life, and somebody who knows how to care about another person without losing themselves in the process. And I think that's important, because this message started with somebody who was already strongly engaged with y'all. There was excitement there. There was chemistry. And there was enough emotional possibility for a 10 of Cups, a happily ever after, to show up. But the circumstances weren't aligned. So the connection went into non-action, and y'all allowed it. Y'all didn't force anything. Y'all stayed compassionate. Y'all re-engaged with your own lives, and y'all remained emotionally fulfilled. Y'all stayed grounded and practical, responsible and focused on your own stability. And through all of that, y'all stayed devoted to yourselves. Now somebody else is being forced to look at their own position, and apparently when they do, they realize they haven't been completely honest about where they are, or why they're still there, or what they actually feel for y'all. And that realization creates a spark. And when they look back towards y'all, they're seeing this Queen of Coins. This person is seeing y'all's value. So this message isn't asking y'all to do anything differently, because I'm getting whatever went into non-action was allowed to go into non-action. Y'all didn't stop your lives trying to fix the timing. And I think that's exactly why this person now has an opportunity to see y'all differently now. Because y'all didn't prove your value by convincing somebody to choose you. Y'all demonstrated your value by continuing to choose yourselves. And that's the message that I have for y'all today. So if this person shows back up, if they re-engage, I hope you'll save this message and come back and let me know, because I do see it at the present time or the very near future. And if this one landed, then like my message, leave me a comment and let me know, and make sure y'all are following along. And remember, where there is love, there is light. I'll see y'all again. real soon.